The death of this transgender woman in Port Harcourt is sparking conversations. But what is more unfortunate is the story behind her passing, as well as her hidden identity. Emmanuella Adaolisa, as she called herself, was said to have been originally born in Man, presumably from Enugu State, where she hails from. But when she moved to Port Harcourt to school and study as a pharmacist, she eventually decided to stay and live her life in Port Harcourt, which is very common for a lot of students who graduate from there. She became a pharmacist. The records have it that she had a pharmaceutical shop where she sells drugs and medications. She's a professional pharmacist. But what is not very clear is at what point she began living her life as a full transgender woman. Although from sources, it's clear that her family knew she had a feminine trait, and as a little child, she was very effeminate and would wear female clothing, put on makeup. So the signs were there, but they did not know, that is, her family did not know how far it could have gone. Apparently, it went really far when it came to her identity, because somewhere around August and September of 2022 could be the time when she, or could be traced to be the time where she most likely decided to live a new life as a woman, changing her name from Emmanuel to Emmanuella. Because it was around August and September of 2022, she moved into a new apartment in Iwoferum Olumini area of Port Harcourt, and it was also around this time she joined the St. John's Catholic Church in that neighborhood too. So, according to her neighbors, when she moved in, they knew her as a woman. Even her death and her identity is still a surprise to them. She came into the compound as Emmanuela, so no one knew her from her previous life. And when she joined the church, she also presented herself as Emmanuela. She joined the choir, she joined the women's group. She even told the women there that she is married and had done a traditional marriage from Ogun State or somewhere, and she was planning on doing a white wedding. And she blended in perfectly. So clearly her life as a woman was probably beginning to start. It's just unfortunate that it did not last long, because in January of 2023, on the 31st, that was when she had the ghastly accident that took her life. It was said that she had finished from church and was returning home in a tricycle where she sat in the front seat with the driver. There were other passengers in the keke, but it was as though each and every one of them dropped at a certain junction. And I think her junction was supposed to be the last one, but she remained in the tricycle in the front seat. And when the collision with the tricycle and the truck hit, it was said she got struck on the face and the tricycle fell into a gutter and she was bleeding seriously there. At the time people saw her and recognized her, it was said the plumber who had worked in her compound quickly went to the compound to let them know that, see, your neighbor is in a critical condition. It was her neighbors who then eventually went to the site, picked up her phones, trying to call numbers that, of people who knew her to come get her. And they tried a few numbers, but every time that they called the number, they tried to tell, okay, just to be clear, they took off her SIM card from her phone to put in another phone to call numbers. So it wasn't like her phone was open. So the first few people that the people called kept saying that they did not know the phone to belong to any Emmanuela, any woman. They knew the phone to belong to a man, not a woman. And so it was difficult to reach out to someone who knew Emmanuela very quick, because half the people in her contact, or a lot of people in her contact, only knew her as a man when she was Emmanuel, or when she was a man. But eventually they got to the church people, the choristers, the choir, the people from the new church she attends, and they were the ones who came and they were like, oh, they knew her and she was a member of the choir. They rushed her to a military hospital, but unfortunately she died on arrival, and she was deposited in the morgue there. And it was in the morgue that the whole discovery happened for the whole world. According to sources, it was somewhere around midnight where the choir master, or the parish person who brought Emmanuela's body to the morgue, got a phone call and was asked to confirm the identity of the person that they brought to the hospital, in which the parishioner kept saying it was a woman, a lady by the name of Emmanuela. But the mortician was still confused and asked them to come back when it was daybreak to come and confirm the gender of this lady that they brought. When they all went to the morgue the next day, the mortician took them to where Emmanuela's body was, and her genitals was revealed to them as the true identity of who she actually was. And that was when the church people found out that she was a man. And eventually that was how the story came out to the public, that she was posing as a woman all this while, and the accident eventually exposed her. Although the narrative is changing, as many people are saying that she was caught by the law, that it was God's way of exposing her, that she was trying to put the church to shame, and that a higher organization sent her to put shame to the Catholic Church, which is ironic though. Before I digress, that was the narrative going on, that she was sent. It's been disappointing. A lot of people have expressed their disappointment. It seems her family are not exactly the proudest of him at this time, and it's a lot of backlash and a lot of, talk as to how this was God's way of exposing her. Although there's a flip community of people saying that accident happens and it's just unfortunate to what happened to her, because it's not as if she was probably hiding her identity. Maybe she was, due to the fact of she was aware of the reception she would get, but people did point out that she has actually been a Catholic all her life. She was born a Catholic. Even as a little child, she served in the Mass. She was embedded a Catholic, and even when she wanted to make a new life as a woman, she still kind of felt the need to remain a Catholic. And maybe that was why she was going back into the Catholic Church, to still be close to God, even though she was going to start living a life as a woman. That was some arguments that other people brought, in defense of her being in church as a trans woman. But what is more interesting is the fact that her neighbors are really saying nice things about her. Emmanuela's neighbors have mostly spoken out as to how, despite not knowing that she was a trans woman, they said that she was a very nice person in the compound. They said she would greet you first before you even greet her. They said she contributed to the activities of the compound. They said she was peaceful, respectful, nice, cheerful. She was kind, and that she would give, those neighbors are always want to borrow salt and borrow sugar. As she was that generous, and she took part in every activity in the compound. She was supportive, and that she was just all around nice to them. And they were surprised that she turned out to be a man. But, they didn't really get the clue because they did not know her before then. And they always assumed that flat butt was due to the fact that not every woman has big butts. And they pointed out that only one person usually came to visit her when she was mostly living there. And maybe that could have been the person they said was her fiancé. And according to sources, this so-called person has been identified, and he is claiming that he did not know that Emmanuela was a man. And I find that hard to believe. I don't know who you are, but I'm very sure you knew that he was a man. It's really sad, it's really unfortunate. Not much has been said as to how the family is going to handle the situation. I can imagine how embarrassing it must be for them and how disappointing it must be for them. Will they be able to take responsibility for her remains? Will they take her home and give her a burial? Will she be abandoned? Will she be forgotten? What is going to happen now is what I am sort of trying to be interested in, because I know this is not a very easy moment. This is sort of a shameful moment for the most part because of the backlash that Emmanuela is getting. At the same time, she is dead now, or he is dead, and what is going to happen? Will the family take responsibility for her, or will they just abandon her? I would honestly hope they do take responsibility for her. She's still their child, or they can always bury her as a boy and send her back to the Lord, I guess. It's just really unfortunate, and it's really sad. But you guys, let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you feel about this story. Do you think that her death was God's way of punishing her? Or do you think it was just an unfortunate incident? Let me know what you think.
So sex can lead to pregnancy. Jesus! Hey, we learn every day.
Oh my word, oh jeez. Isn't she beautiful? 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 Oh my word, the queen herself.